Deani, I heard that you started your Charlotte Mason journey when your daughter dropped out of kindergarten. Tell us more about that story.
Yeah, well, it was the mid 1990s, and I was a mom of two little girls. I loved learning with our toddlers. We were reading widely. We were always at the library. We were growing plants. We were always exploring out of doors. We listened to lots of music, and we were discovering, the mystery of little black dots. If you arrange them on 5 lines, they can represent sound. It was just beautiful those years. And then at 5 years old, our older daughter went off to kindergarten. Within about 8 weeks, it was evident that she was becoming increasingly unhappy. It seemed like she was so hungry and she was so eager to learn, but what was on offer at that school just somehow didn't seem to match. And by Christmas, sadly, we were pulling our precious child, kicking and screaming and crying, from out behind her bed on the mornings that we were trying to get her to go to school. So I was a public high school teacher at that time, and on my shelf, I had this huge, the 1,000-page book with all the regulations that relate to education. And so my husband pulled it off the shelf one evening, and he just sat and he was flipping through it. He didn't say a word. And then finally he said, "Look at this right here." And the words were, "Education is compulsory from age 6 to 16. And Sarah, I remember looking at each other, and he's like, "She doesn't even have to go to school." So we decided right then and there she would stay home in January, and some friends very kindly told us that we were homeschoolers now. I didn't know what that meant, but then a dear friend handed me a pink book that had been published about 10 years earlier. It was called, and she said to me first, she said, "Deani, this seems like the type of educator you are." So I took a closer look at the book, and it was called For the Children's Sake: Foundations of Education for Home and School. It was by Susan Schaefer Macaulay, and she was from L'Abri in England. Well, after reading that book and making that decision, our life really did get set on a new course. And we became a family that then took responsibility for our children's education. So some years, one or more of our eventually 3 children did find themselves going to school, and some years everybody was at home. And as I think back to those years, Sarah, those were full days. Our home was filled. It was filled with books and music and ideas. And there was always this hum of busyness and industry. And we tried to season everything with love in those days.
Now that you're no longer raising and educating your children and are a grandparent now, and as you think back about through those steps as a parent and homeschool educator that led you to do a thesis on Charlotte Mason's design for education, and the years of working in various ways with the Charlotte Mason community, can you help us understand if this work is still relevant, and why is Mason even still relevant today?
Well, first of all, when I read Mason's works, I just find that her words are delicious. It's just ennobling to read Mason's writings on education. So that in itself brings a kind of relevance. But I think more importantly, her design for education is coherent. And its coherence holds as it did in the late 19th century right through into the 21st century where we are. And I would say it's got these 3 essential parts. First, I think we can learn from her what the focus or what the purpose or the outcome of education ought to be. And I think it runs something like this: education for a magnanimous character, living a full life in rich relationships of love and service. So what's the focus? What's the purpose of education? I think she gets that right. And then secondly, we can learn from her why that purpose is so vital. And essential to that is recognizing the personhood of the child. And then thirdly, I think from her, we can learn how to get on with it, how to go about offering an education. It's an education that's so grounded in such a clear purpose and grounded upon such rich reasons, and then given a how to go about it. It's still coherent and it's still relevant today.
I love that. For a family with younger children like my own, what advice would you give on carrying Charlotte Mason forward?
Yeah. Well, it really starts with your view of your child. created in God's image, beloved and known, a child born by the very nature of your child's personhood, designed for relationship. Relationship with of 4 different types. Relationship with God, with the transcendent, with the non-material. And secondly, relationship with the universe or the natural world or all the artifacts of science all around them. Third, relationship with other people. So people who lived before, those that are living now, and those who will live. And then fourth, designed for relationship with self. And Sarah, I think you're a really wonderful example of a parent who recognized this. You open windows and doors for your children so that they can enter into those kinds of relationships. You know, the advice that I would offer is to point our children towards what they ought to love. Help them build an awe and a wonder and a curiosity for the other, and nourish their appetites on what's good and healthy. Help them to bump up in their daily life against the good, the true, the beautiful. And do that from the very earliest moments of their life. Sarah, I've seen you do this. It's so critical that we ask our children to talk, to share with us what they notice, to describe what they're reading, to narrate their insights. I think our greatest gift as adults, as parents, as educators, is to look a child in the eyes and to offer calm and focused attention, to see a real person, and then by our respect for them as persons bearing God's image, and through pointing them to what's worthy of their time in relationship, then I think you and we are offering our children and our grandchildren a way forward that does lead to the fullness of life.
Thank you for those words of wisdom, Deani. I want to encourage everyone to attend a Charlotte Mason Institute conference so they can hear more from Deani and the rest of the Charlotte Mason Institute team. Thank you.